You guys ready? Thomasini, you ready? All right, cool. So I prefer intimate, so this is great. All right, so I've been a wealth manager. Someone's on. I'll wait 2 seconds. Yeah, cool. Cool. So I've been a wealth manager for 12 years now, Northwestern Mutual advisor, wealth manager. I work with my main function is to have, folks I'm working with be, really as wealthy you want to call it, but more so prepared for whatever the opportunity or disaster, right? Usually not, but usually more opportunity may be at any different time interval. So when it comes to investments, cash, real estate, right, it's kind of worked in a way where I naturally work with a lot of realtors and agents because it just makes sense to tie in real estate and really recommend real estate or rentals at the right time or buying a home at the right time. So I'm here to talk with you people who are like laser focused on one area of wealth building, which is very attractive and popular, and kind of broaden that to the general stock market, safer investing, how aggressive to be at what age. And I really want to put a lot of emphasis in taxation, right? Because that's kind of the greatest erosion factor for all of you who, make money and could make more, and you kind of make a decision as to what your income is going to be, right? So I always like to say, or not really say, but kind of do a census, like college education funding, retirement funding, multifamily investing. Thomasini, you said that, but I don't know. I'm not an expert on that, but I kind of know when it's time to start looking at, picking up rentals and using a HELOC on your primary to start gobbling some up and kind of growing that portfolio. So what are the things that you all want to talk about? What are your concerns? What's timely in your line of work right now? So does anyone want to focus on any specific thing to start? And then usually from there, I just like to roll, and it'll be a lot of fun, and it's not me talking at you guys. Yeah.
I guess self-teaching about finances and stuff. So I've been reading a lot about index funds. I know that that's more of a long-term thing. I'd like to know more about how can so there's a lot that I would like to do financially that's not just for me specific, but it is for my kids, generational wealth, but it's also for like my father and his wife, because they don't have retirement set up. Somebody's gonna have to help offset those bills. So I just kind of wanted to know a nice, safe way to have your money grow versus taking the riskier moves just because I can't afford to lose money.
Yeah, you're in a spot where it wouldn't make a lot of sense to incur a huge amount of risk for a big payout. And yeah. And that's a lot of people. Yeah. So, I mean, number one is the discipline to spend less than what comes in. And I mean, for you all, it's a revenue problem, not an expense problem, right? As I've always been told, because I'm in a very similar line of work, similar contract, right? So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could do that. Let's just talk general stock market, and then we can laser in on should I do a SEP IRA, because I think everyone's 1099, right? Is that how it works? Like the generic. Okay, so there's some people who are W-2 here. Okay, cool. Okay, so both. So I'll stay away from that then, and we could get nuance for like the agents, because you guys can 1099, you can do more things, you have more options, right? Not that they're better or worse, and you still need to have the ability to put the money into different things, but if you own your own business, you can do your own accounts, you can put away more money. But I mean, if you're a W-2 and you have a 401k or a simple, that's still thousands of dollars a month that you have the option to put in, if that kind of makes sense, right? Like max into a 401k or a simple plan. What I'm saying is I'll avoid that and just talk general stock market. The function of a SEP, a Roth, a 529, a second to die life insurance policy that funds a trust for the kid, like all that different stuff is a play on tax. And it's just mitigating tax as much as possible, and on average as much as possible. If you were to die at 50, if you were to die at 68, if you're to live to 105, how can you maximize and keep retain as much as possible? So while avoiding that, just general stock market, is the stock market doing good or bad right now? Is anyone, I'm asking a facetious question. Right now, we have just emerged out of being as far down as we were on March 6th of 2009. So starting with the Lehman Brothers and all the real estate stuff and the AAA bond ladders, right? The general stock market went down about 36%, and we bottomed out right around Christmas at like 34% down. And there's been the first 25 days of this month have been wonderful, but that happens. That's part of the ebbs and flows, right? And it happened flat. It
went nuts. It was like bedlam.
But by the end of the day, half of the market was up 0.33% and half was down 0.33. So it was a pretty flat day overall, right? So it's, before I talk about trending averages, just ignore the media. So imagine this, you turn on and I'm on the TV, I don't know who would hire me, but I'm on the news and I say, hey, stock market's doing fine, equities go up, they always have, they always will, there's no issues and the weather's all right. And you'd be like, cool, off, right? So it makes more sense to catastrophize what's going on, whether it's good, whether it's bad, right? And then you're watching more, and then you show up in my office and you're like, I don't know if the timing is right. And I'm like, well, it's down 30%. Imagine if your dream car went from 100,000 to 70,000, nothing wrong with it. They just mispriced it. You would buy it, right? And even if you couldn't afford it, you would flip it, right? So money in the general stock market. I know you guys want to talk about individual securities, what should I buy? What's a hot buy? That is taking just an immense amount of risk with some money or a lot of money. And not to say that there's not always a payoff, right? Imagine buying Amazon in 1990, whatever, the picture of Bezos sitting in the basement where yeah, you'd be quite wealthy now. But 9 times out of 10, either nothing happens or you lose money. So when it comes to investing, the best approach for what you're saying, the more long-term stable, is to buy an index or a mutual fund, and really what that is, and sorry for the people who know this and have a lot of it, but a mutual fund, you could give me $1,000 or as little as $250, and we can get it in the stock market, and you could buy the 1,000 largest companies in the US, right? So you could own 0.00008% of an Amazon share, and you can own, right? Because what these fund companies do is they have the capital to go buy them, and then you get a percentage of everything, right? So mathematically, the way it works is if you want to have a diverse portfolio where that the average return will be X and the standard deviation will be, right? For the younger people in here, you're going to get 9% plus or minus 15, right? And as we get closer to retirement, 6% plus or minus 8, right? You need to have almost $2 million to buy the individual stocks and be diverse yourself, right? Or you could just buy a mutual fund or an index fund and get the 1,000 largest, right? And the 3,000 largest on the Tokyo exchange and the London exchange and and you can buy everything for a very little amount of money. And then you can have diversity and know it's going to go. But the trending average, right? If you're younger and you can take a lot of risk, is an average of 11.5% every year since 1926. And also every 20 years, it's just like real estate, right? Give it enough time, right? In the stock market, it's 20 years. They all look identical. Nothing is unique, nothing is special. It goes every 10 years, there's a big crash and a flat year or a little crash, right? And the average is 11.5. And it's only 1926 because there were 2 fires in New York where all that data is gone. But now we have the internet, so it's great. What that means in English is if you were to put money in the stock market, it will double every 6.5, 7 years on average. Again, on average, it could be pretty flat and then lose 20% in that time frame. But then generally the next, 6, 7 years will be quite wonderful, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Usually they tell us something about that.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead if you don't mind.
Yeah, 72 divided by 11.5. Yeah.
Your space. I'm gonna pin you to the top so your image is larger.
Cool.
Did they ever find out what the system issue was yesterday with the stock exchange?
No.
They're still looking into it?
I don't pay attention. I wasn't paying attention. So I'm not trading paper. I'm not. So my focus when I'm working with people, it's important to know, what are your goals, right? So how old do you want to be when you have the ability to no longer earn income? What's the lifestyle you want? 8,000 a month today, 15,000 a month today, 5,000 a month today. My house is already paid off, right? So it just depends on who the person is. Where are you in relation to that, right? So what's in all the accounts and what's going in on a systematic monthly basis, and then what else needs to be done to get there, right? Or you're ahead of time, but we could make it so much more tax efficient, right?
I was going off your question of
Yeah.
with a market stock, so which I do, and that's why I was asking you.
Yeah.
If they found out what happened to the system issue yesterday, because if that's chaos, because there was a system issue that happened with the stock exchange yesterday that like impeded everybody trading and doing things, like a big issue, like it's huge, like the New York Stock Exchange is like looking into it, and there was a huge issue. So I thought that's what you were getting at when you were asking.
No, but it's Uncle Vladimir. I already know. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The stock market lately, because it was crazy. That's absolutely crazy. What
Right.
happened yesterday.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, that's what I thought you were talking about.
Well, no, it's fine. It's funny. So to really say like, well, why wasn't I paying attention? This is what I do for a living, right? Like, there's been numerous studies that say that the best performing investment accounts, the ones that get the highest yield on average, like I'm talking 4% per year more than the 401k that you're tinkering with and all the accounts you know about, right? So someone dies and someone inherits a bunch of different stuff. The one that they forget about and it's tucked in a drawer outperforms so much. So really the secret is kind of similar in some regards to some aspects of real estate, just to be really ordinary for an extraordinary amount of time, right? And just set it up and have it be a bill. And so that's why it's no flash and pizzazz in what I do. It's stop dining out so much, dummy. And that's more of the conversations. So to answer your question, it just depends on numerous different things, right? Like, do you want to pay for their college, or like how far away are you from buying as much Accord as you can afford for them? And do you want to help with the 20% down? Because in my opinion, that's more impactful and saves more monthly for a 27-year-old than student loans, right? At least for me, I think that was the case. But parents, how old are they? What are you trying to support them, or right? But then it's also, when are you going to die? When are they going to die? When are you going to have grandkids? So there's no real easy answer, but I do love life insurance in general, just in relation to my own kids, because that means I can take way more risk with the limited resources I have, which are most limited now for everyone, right? Because ideally we're growing and it gets easier and easier financially. But if you know that everything's taken care of, you were to pass away, then yeah, let's take more risk. Let's buy some individual shares of Amazon and some penny stocks, because I can afford to lose it regardless of what happens. Does that kind of make sense? And then same thing on the back end, when you have a policy that's going to outlive you on like a guaranteed basis, like not a term policy or like group benefits or whatever. Like a whole life or variable life, or I referenced earlier, like second to die, right? So when the last one of, me and my wife pass away, what I found is for people that are in retirement, no matter how much money they have, when it comes time to pay bills or spend money or buy a boat or upgrade the car, there's always this guilt and shame. They're like, it should go to my grandkids, right? Like I feel guilty. So to me, the best part is it's kind of a license to spend money when you get there, if that makes sense. So let me share my generic retirement planning approach, I think, and it ties a little bit into real estate, but when you look at someone want to be bold, and can I ask, like, in an ideal world, what would whoever wants to answer like to be able to spend monthly in retirement? Does that make sense? 15, good number. Yeah.
I was gonna say 10, but why not 15?
Yeah.
I was gonna say 10, but yeah, 10 to 15,000.
15.
Like that's how much you get after all your bills are paid.
Right. So let's say the house is paid off too, right? And so prop taxes, insurance, utilities, food, whatever, you got 11 to blow every month, right? Like that's a really good life.
But if you happen to be, you're putting in a retirement home, like most of those are like very expensive, you know, so you can get ate up really quickly. That's why I say 15, is because I'd like more of a cushion just in case. I don't ever want to be a burden for my kids, like change my diapers, you know, but like financially, I need to.
Cool. Sorry, it's hot. We got to talk insurance then, like I got to tie insurance things. It's really important. What you just said is everything. Like imagine if, cool, you got 15,000, 180,000 a year. So you got,
The one right beside, there's a thermostat right beside you, not down.
oh, you guys hot too? If you guys are comfy, I don't want to change it. You guys, okay, cool.
Hit the whole button.
Yeah, I got it. 70 to 68, but it is 72 in here. So, yep. All right. So you want to spend 180,000 a year. And let's assume, just to make it easier, like all this money is Roth centric. So there's no income tax, right? Because there are ways to do it. There are ways to put away more than just a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k. So forget about taxes. You want to spend 180,000 a year. Let's say Social Security is going to be what, 2,000 a month net after tax, right? So we need 13,000 a year. And by the way, Social Security is there and it will be there. Now for the younger folks here and for the older folks here, like it might be at the worst case half of what you deserve until 2080. Like that funding is already there. So there will be Social Security. But if you're 40 or less, I'm running like 60%, 30 or less, like 50%, right? Until 2080. Does anyone know why? I know that's like really fun to complain about, but anyone like speculate why?
Like people were living longer, like when they originally said.
The second one, yeah. It's the doctor's faults. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So 1968, you'd retire at 62 and you would die at 69 on average. And you had Social Security, Navy pension, and the Union pension. And you would live like 8-9 years and you would die, right? Like my grandfather, a great generation. Now we're retiring at 67 on average, and we're dying at 86 on average. Back then, 30 people were working and paying FICA taxes, and one person was retired for 9 years. Now, 3 people are working for your 25-year retirement. Make sense? And the way to offset that is to increase FICA tax, the Social Security tax, not the percentage, but like this year, if you make 153,000 on that day, on that check, whatever, you no longer pay a FICA tax. Like you're capped out on Social Security tax. So the way to like offset that is 2 years ago it was 131,000. So they're increasing it a lot more than inflation, if that kind of makes sense. So Social Security, say the house is paid off, you need 15,000 a month. So we need 13,000 a month net, right? And again, it's all in a Roth, so we don't have to pay taxes. That just makes the math easier. So that's 156,000 a year. So whatever that is, 4.5%. So you would need, if that is 4.5% of the total, then the math checks out. So let's multiply it by 20. So you would need like 1.6, 1.7 million. And here's how it works. You can't be in all stocks anymore because you're retired, right? So you can't lose 30% because then how are you going to pay your bills? Well, you'll be able to, but right now, if you took out 100,000, that would be the same as taking out 165,000 in November of 2021, if that makes sense. So that's kind of detrimental to take withdrawals when it's low. So there's some timing involved, but on average, you can't get 11.5% anymore. Maybe you could if you had enough real estate and that's enough to pay the bills or whatever, but closer to 8% is going to be a portfolio for somebody who is retired and living on the money. So that's like 60% stocks and 40 bonds, which are very low yield, but they're safe. They can't go down, right? So when you're accruing wealth, just like a side piece, don't have bonds because that's like kind of tapping the brake with your left foot, trying to get to Richmond or something, right? It's very inefficient. But then as you do get closer, you do need to kind of reduce your speed, right? Because now you're older, you got worse vision and, et cetera. So you got your 1.7 million. The expected return is, go ahead. Okay. No, you're good. You're good. Yeah. I didn't hear it 'cause I'm so loud. Yeah. You guys get a lot of jets here. I'm in town center. We don't get any. Yeah. A couple helicopters. Okay. So you got your 1.7 million. You're going to get an 8% average growth every year in a rather conservative portfolio. So you can take out about 4.5% every year. If you were to do that, let's say it's today, you have 1.7 million. It's growing at 8. You're taking out 4.5. So the total amount's growing at what? Inflation. So it's growing at 3.5 on average. So you go indefinitely. You could live until 200. And when you die, the state, is going to get 1.7 million in today's dollars. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So that's like living on the interest, right? And it helps, get the real estate, get it paid off, right? And have that be coming in. I've just never seen anyone retire and still be happy that they own 7 units or whatever. Like,
When they hit their retirement, they do
yeah, they're just everyone I work with that actually retires, like they offload within a couple of, just because some people like to do it, right? The people that really like to cut their own grass and like wear the knee pads and like pick the crabgrass, like those types of people, maybe, but most people are just like, I don't know, like stopping work. Also, you just want to slow down, right? So, but I am a fan of having real estate if you have a property manager, honestly, because you don't want to get a call when you're in the Bahamas with your kids that something broke or whatever. Money, you can take out a percentage. Now the what ifs, and now insurance. So there's a variety of different insurances, and for everyone here that's working, I would recommend having as much disability insurance as you can possibly have. So unrelated to all your questions, but very related as it comes to the solvency of your income, which for most people here is their biggest asset, right? And so, but your investments and your real estate and all that will be your biggest asset once that 4.5% number is more than your income, right? So if you do it really well and you start at 22 and you're just flawless, that's like 55, 56 years old. Disability insurance, I think it's just pivotal, because what if you can't go to work? Like there's just so many what ifs with that. And so for most people, that ability to earn income is, again, by far the biggest asset. So I'm a fan of that while you're working up in. $10.99, 2 years average income. $10.99, your income is a hustle, but hustle very carefully. Yes. $10.99, 2 years of income. But the thing is, your income is probably a third of what you actually make, right? If you have a decent accountant. So that's the gripe, right? Is you can only get so much. And it's the same with my contract. So what a colleague of mine in Philadelphia did was he just attacked like our corporate home office and got it to where if you do a certain amount of business, like total revenue, regardless of your tax returns and what the average is, you can layer up additional coverage, which is huge for me. I was like, oh, I saw that email and I was like, yes, all of it, the most, right? Because I don't want to, I amended to buy my house like 5 years ago, but then I had to re-amend and had to wait 37 months to get the refund from the reamendment, right? So I was just like, yeah. Disability insurance, get it. 1099 is a little more tricky. W-2 is kind of easy. And I don't know what the group benefits are here, and I don't really want to know, but W-2s, oftentimes there's a group policy, right? If there's 10 or more employees. So there's a group policy, then I would say layer it up with an individual policy, the same thing that you would get if you were 1099. And so what that means is, most group policies are 60% of what you make. But if you get disabled, that's 60% of your gross income, and it never goes up with inflation. So I would say layer it with a top 36, 37%. You can't get the full income that you would be making, because then you would be incentivized to kind of just put your foot out on the highway and be like, and play Xbox all day, right? But layer it up with a policy that's yours for your income there. So if you were to be disabled, it's almost same amount of net monthly income comes in, and that portion goes up with inflation. And if you come back to health, but you can't do what you were doing before, that policy is going to try to make your income right. Like I had a surgeon who can't operate anymore. She's a professor now, but that individual policy is getting her income, back into the surgeon world. Not quite, but almost, right? Does that make sense? forget life insurance. Long-term care insurance is a thing. It gets exponentially pricier, more so than life insurance, disability insurance, right? Because we keep living longer. And that's the only insurance line that Northwestern, Mass, New York Life, Guardian, the big four that have never raised rates on anything, have had to raise rates on, because we just keep living exponentially longer. And I know the average life expectancy in the US is like kind of the same or declining, but for the top 10%, like not in a negative way, that's like 90,000 of income or higher, who can afford to do that kind of stuff, they're living much longer. Does that kind of make sense? So if you're married and you both hit 65 together, there's a 92% chance that someone's going to need care at some point in time. And we've all done it with our grandparents. We've all might have done it with our parents at some point. But yeah, it's really the risk of what if one of those care situations is one of the ones that are $7,000 a month and they last 12 years. So that'll completely erode the portfolio. It might even make the kids broke, right? Because I wouldn't let my parents not be in the best place. I'd figure it out somehow. But the old school way of doing it was to have a permanent life insurance policy that's going to follow you. And you've done well enough with money where you can afford almost any sort of bill like that. And then when you pass away, it replenishes the estate. You got to have a lot of money and you got to have a lot of permanent life insurance. And that requires a lot of income and a lot of discipline. And most people can't really do that. So you could just get a long-term care insurance policy. But if you never need care, it's a big waste of money. Right. So I don't really like that. You can also get a life insurance policy, and the death benefit's permanent and it grows as the equity inside of it grows. And you can use 92% of that for long-term care expenses before you pass away. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Again, that's more pricey if you are 57 and you're in the market for that. But if you live too long, if you need care or don't need care, if you die, and then there's also a disability rider on there. So if you're totally disabled, the insurance company pays for it. No matter what, you earn more money than what's going in, or your estate does, your family does. The reason that you're doing it, those people will get more than what you're paying in. It's pricey because we got bills and inflation's happening right now, and all that stuff. So at the highest level, you have enough in assets, you have diverse enough assets, you have real estate. We can talk traditional Roth if you guys want, or whatever else you want, but you have enough. You have the insurances in place, so nothing can degrade the portfolio. You have the legal documents in place, so if you get Alzheimer's and you want to take all 3 million out and you want to give it to that person who told you he can make it grow, wink, wink, right? Your kids can stop that, right? So there's a lot that needs to be done, but it's really not that complicated. It's kind of blue collar at the end of the day. It's just situational. That's what I meant, Thomasine, about like it's super situational based on like every single person's unique situation, what they care about, how much money they make, how much money do they spend. They have a Tahoe or a Camry, right? So it's but it's doable for almost anyone. Yeah. Traditional Roth, inflation. What else? Sorry if I went too like detailed there. I'm passionate about what I do. I'm not a nerd. I'm just very passionate.
About a diverse portfolio, are you basically saying like the right amount of insurance, the right amount of stocks, the right amount of bonds? Is that where the diversity comes from? Or
yeah, not the first part, but it could be, but more so don't put it all in Bitcoin or Ethereum, which is a real thing up until it just corrected. You definitely know that. Yeah, you're probably my age. Everyone in their mid 30s I had people with 300 grand in cryptocurrency, right? That's one thing. That's like, it should.
It's not real. I understand that everybody's making it real.
Bitcoin was good whenever you got in early and then you go.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
But and that's what makes it real and appealing. But it's like,
But that was Bitcoin when it was there, and then you sold, and that's it. There's nothing there right now, right?
Yep.
Nothing there right now.
I got lucky. I put money in, and 3 months later, it was double. And I was like, smells like a rat. So, yeah, there's nothing there, right? I mean, it was just crazy on the way up. I think it started the hype remember the snow day that we had in like 17 or something, and it just went, it skyrocketed. Everyone's calling me, should I get in? I'm like, no, like it's too late. Yeah.
The standby, they're all good staples for half the way.
Mhm.
It's me Investing on them, doing it little by little, to invest in something every single week or every single payday that is a staple. You will make money. You just gotta do it all of a sudden and keep going and don't
Yep.
sell at the wrong time. You know, it's a very people think that, oh, hey, let's get in there on all these big, because what happens is the market blows up or does something great, and then the next day everybody invests. When theoretically it's the people that invested months ago.
You're too late. You're too late. Yeah. Yeah.
So the minute.
That's what my answer is no. Should I get in? No, don't get in. Yeah.
It just happened because it's not gonna happen, and the stock market's gonna correct itself, and it's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
There was a glitch in the matrix, guys. Like, that's really what it is. So if you do the staples, the Coke, Disney, you know, I've been telling Carla for years, I've always had good stocks. I've never had an issue. If you want to try some of the Bitcoins, do the ones that's less than a penny, you know, just to dabble into it, but don't put hundreds of dollars in there, put $10 if you want, because guess what, $10, if it does happen, will make you money, and you're not gonna lose anything on it. But don't be putting hundreds and thousands of dollars in that. Do the same, you shouldn't even pay hundreds of thousands of dollars a week or 2 weeks anyway, right now, you little by little, your hundreds of thousands should be invested a little easier, right? So the stock market's great, but definitely invest in something on a payday basis, but don't do hundreds of thousands, that's for sure, at one time.
I have a friend who, he refers to it as scaling. I'm not sure if that is like the right term for it. But basically what he would do is he would pick a safe stock that fluctuates regularly. And the example he gave me was like Nike. And so like he would, you know, teaching purposes, he was like, he would buy 50 stocks at its lowest, you know, because it has a history, you know, where it's typically low. And then just kind of scale it as it increased by like $10 or whatever, sell off 10 shares, and then re-up when it hits its lowest again, basically. Is that something that you would do on a regular basis for us, or is that something that we as individuals, because he says he has to check the market, you know, 2 to 3 times a day in order to actually make that work, but he says he makes a minimum of 500 a week doing it.
That's day trading, which sounds like a bad word nowadays, but that's not a bad word. I have an uncle who makes a good living off of that.
What's it called?
Day trading.
Day trading.
You're buying and selling, and you make 20 grand here and you lose 8 grand there, and that's a good day.
Yeah.
You made 12, yeah. Unfortunately, he has to stay awake all night. He lives in the Middle East, but you know, you got to be awake from the US's trading. But that's not what I do. I'll show you what I do. And that's what I meant is no flash, no pizzazz. And for you Zoomers, I'm going to share my screen in a second. But I make this big. Okay. There it is. All right. So I'm going to tabs.
Scroll to the top. Keep scrolling.
It's the top.
You gotta put the mouse up there and it should, or did you minimize it?
I don't think, oh, here it is. I can just do this. Sorry. The only not Apple thing in my life is this, because of my stupid financial companies can't use them.
Screen share.
Yup. Only one screen. Cool. That's minimized. Yeah, cool. Sorry, no one can tell my wife about this. She would make fun of me forever. Okay. So, okay, I'll just move them there because all I'm gonna do is put 100,000 in the market in 1978, which is like a gazillion dollars today, but let's just roll with it because it's an easy number. Now I can move these.
Yeah, you can move them to the top and I'll put them across the top of the screen.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay.
Forgive my age again. So 100,000 in 1978. Oh, I will listen to you because I want to see the years. There we go. Thank you. 100,000, all you do. So this is the Growth Fund of America. It's so fancy. So you can buy this at Fidelity, Vanguard, MFS, any fund company. You can literally log in and put money in and set up a monthly if you want or whatever, or you can do it with someone like me and it's the same fees and expenses and et cetera. And all that stuff is baked in here. So you put 100,000 in, this is what I was describing. So it's like, do I do that? No. I'm more of a, I want to get you to the point where you don't need more than 11.5% a year. Like that's ideal, is you're putting enough away. You have it all systematized. You're still having a couple grand a month and fun and trips and whatever, and life is good, right? So with this, I'm going to really describe to you how that return rate is enough, in my opinion. This would be the real value. I'll just do it like this. This will be the real value on New Year's Eve every single year. You can see 1978 was a good year. 79 was even better. 80s were phenomenal, right? Even the stock market crash of 1987 was completely rebounded by the time the year ended. That was one of those, you guys remember when COVID started and everything just boom, but then it was back up to where it was in June, and then the year ended at like plus 25%. Similar, not 25%. That happened in October. One of the first scenes of Wolf of Wall Street, if you guys know what I'm talking about. Yeah. I was a man, I got my 7. So let's talk about bad years. So this is what everyone's afraid of. Well, if I invest, what if I lose money? This has no bonds, but it has diversity. It has airlines, communication, utilities. Now it's super heavily weighted at growth, which is Tesla, Amazon, Google, Facebook, right? And Samsung is kind of in the top 100 as well. But it has so many different sectors, things that are playing in different sandboxes. And that's the point I'm trying to make. So there's nothing safe in this. And you can see when there's nothing safe in this. 2001 was pretty ugly, right? And that started in March with the whole .com, right? You guys remember the story about pets.com? It got a share of pets.com got to over $400. And there was one guy in his mom's basement, literally his mom's garage.
Always a basement or garage. Always a basement or garage.
I love my garage. I was just talking about how much. Careful now. Yeah. Oh.
Everyone.
It is, yeah, really. Garage is the only space I'm like, it's all I get. I got 3 kids and 2 dogs. So I sneak out the front door so they think I went to do something there, and I run around and I open the garage door so it doesn't make noise. And I'm alone for like 2 minutes. Dad, I got you. Yeah. So that's what happened there. And the 9/11 didn't help. And at that point, the airline industry was a huge part of the economy, like a massive part of it, like 3-4% of it, which doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot of money, right? Yeah. And this is where everyone sells, and right, like 08 as well. This is where everyone sells. This is where, I don't really know if I trust the stock market because, my uncle really got burned and got like totally screwed over by it. But it's because even though you know it, even though you know not to sell there, it's super logical, super mathematical. It is so scary to stay in when it's plummeting. And just like being too late to buy, you're too late to sell, always. Mm-hmm.
It's not whether you want to buy or sell. The people that actually had to retire during the it was either, okay, wait, I have had this 10-year plan of retiring this year. I have to retire. Oh shit. Now what?
Well, it's really not that. Yes, mentally.
Yeah, right. They couldn't see past what was right there. That was the one, and everybody else is like, should I stay or fit? I was like, oh my God, what about people that get retired? They're the ones mentally having this issue right now. Especially if they didn't have anybody like you, right? Like if they didn't have it, they were really freaking out because they were within their own head.
100,000%.
Yes, I am talking to this as well.
I replied and said, ask questions or talk. I put the volume all the way up just in case someone could interrupt.
Oh, he said that, but it looks like I said.
Yeah.
Oh.
I thought somebody made a comment on your appearance.
I was calling myself old, everyone, just to be on the record. I didn't know I was Thomasina. Yeah. But let's go back to the math. Thomasina, you got 1.7. You want to spend 156,000 a year out of your portfolio. 08 happens. At the end of that, if you kept pulling out the same amount and increased it by 3% a year, at the end of, we're going to get to 2013, you're going to have like 950,000. So it was very scary mentally. And you might outlive your money now if you got it right to the margins like that, but life goes on. So what's the way?
Is this chart reflecting reinvesting the dividends?
Yep. Yes. But it is not, you're not paying capital gains taxation. So some magical way you have 1.2 million somewhere else that you can, or 15 or 20% of that you can pay the capital gains with, right?
So the capital gains, is that due when you start to withdraw it, or do you start earning capital gains while even though it's still invested?
It depends.
Okay.
Individual securities, when you sell it, mutual funds, more diversity, whatever. There's what's called a step up in basis every year. So if you earn more than $600, you get a 1099-R from the fund company, and you got to pay that 15% or 20% if you make over 562,000 this year, single or married filing jointly. Sorry, 23.8. There's an additional 3.8 if you're in that top bracket. Interest earned tax. What'd you say?
Does it balance out when you do go to withdraw it? So like, let's say that you're in the one where you have to start paying on it. When you go to actually start withdrawing it, you have to pay taxes on it again, or okay.
Nope. Which is really nice too, because like when Yep. Because like my average client's like 53, and so we're at the point now where a lot of their parents are starting to pass away, and it's just so much cleaner when all the money's in mutual funds. They've been paying the tax, so they just get it nice and clean. Or if they die in September and it was a good year, they got to pay on 170 times 0.15 or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. But that tax is the biggest erosion of your wealth if you're not looking at, and that's what retirement accounts prevent. Life insurance policies that are permanent bill cash value, annuities. If you have so much money that you have enough in the insurance world, and you're putting 61,000 or 22,500 in the 401k space, right? 1099 or W2 is the difference. And you have enough cash, then annuities where you can just take money and have it be tax deferred. You don't get a deduction going in, and you got to pay income tax coming out. But if you can avoid 15%. I work with like 10 people that are retired, and in 2021, in 2021, in that year, like 10 people, the bill they had to pay in capital gains taxes was more than they had ever earned in their life in terms of earned income, because it was a good year in the market and 15% of what went up. That's great. They get to keep 85% of that. But what I'm saying is that there's literally no way that they could afford to write a check with what they had in the bank. Therefore, 15% of the earnings came out, which is no big deal, right? They keep 85%. But if they're in their 70s, then that's millions less going to the grandkids when they die. Does that kind of make sense? So you want to avoid the capital gains taxes as much as possible. But just having it in a liquid account like that it's just easy to, it's just like savings that's earning money, essentially. But with savings, you got to pay income tax. With this, it's capital gains tax. So this is better. But all right, Thomasina, what are we going to do about this? 08, right? So 08 was the longest. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, it looks like a big deal just because of the timing. And actually, this is only like 80% of it. It kept going down until March 6th of 09. And that was the very valley, right? But then the recovery was stout, right? You can see the recovery. And all of that 2 million that you earned back because you had the courage to stay in because your advisor made you, right? That's kind of my role.
Somebody who didn't decided to not.
Yep.
Freaked out.
All of that was 3 days of trading. So 3 days of trading in 9 months was all that recovery, just like 10% days, or one was like 14.5% positive, right?
Which is like the key to why you should have an advisor, because I'm telling you, everybody who didn't have an advisor, 80% of those people pulled out. I'm telling you, if they didn't have 80% of those people pulled out. Everyone I talked to was like, oh my God, like absolutely ridiculous, because they didn't have somebody who had financial knowledge to tell them, trust me, this is why I'm here. It's my moment. It's where I shine. Trust me. And then they came back strong.
Crisis du jour. It's the crisis of the day. Yeah.
Yep. A lot of people that claim to be financial advisors, like, how do we sort through the garbage? How do we vet financial advisors to make sure that, because you guys cost money too,
Brokercheck.com. Are they securities licensed? Are they a fiduciary? Yep. They have all their serious things going. Are they a fiduciary? So
Oh, that's a good point.
if I want to make a commission from you and it's for me to make money and it's not in your best interest, barred from the securities industry for life, and I might have to spend some time in prison. Big deal, right? Now, anyone today, this might just be my organization, but I'm pretty sure it's across the board, Department of Labor stuff. I'm pretty sure that if anyone's going to manage a retirement account for you or a managed money account, like the $250,000 and up, even if it's liquid, they have to be acting as a fiduciary. Actually, no, they don't. They don't have to be. So that's kind of more, God, just stick with Northwestern, New York Life, Guardian, most people at UBS, most people at Merrill, a lot of Edward Jones, but when it goes bad quickly. But there's some amazing Edward Jones people like around here. Yeah, brokercheck.com. Do they have any lawsuits? What was it? Let me see all the details. Oh, a land dispute. That's normal. I had one too, right? Yep. Yep. Like the full thing. Like he said he was investing it and he didn't, and then he lied and said that he told me I shouldn't and I agreed, and that was all made up. And oh yeah, I probably shouldn't work with that character, right? That's like anytime we're thinking about like a civil suit or something, like for business reasons, I'm like, baby, if we do this, like you have to do it and my name can't be on it, right? Because I want that thing to stay like empty, right? Felonies, misdemeanors, all that stuff. Yeah. Thomasina, 37 months, longest ever recovery. Now, the Great Depression was miserable. 1963 to 71 was miserable. So Great Depression, you're steady going down like 6% a year for like 6 years, which is so much more harmful than this. Because remember, we're getting that 8% and we're living on 4.5, right? 1963, 1971 was flat. It was like up 1%, down 1%. It was the worst possible time to retire in history. But it didn't feel that way because it's kind of like this capital gains tax. It's like, oh, no big deal, right? It's not painful like when your CPA is like, 25 grand is what you didn't pay in quarterlies, right? Like a lot of us know that feeling. But it's that secret kind of sunk. So this is not that bad, but it's the longest kind of valley to full recovery. So that was March of 2009 to April of 2012. So 37 months is what I like to plan for. Alzheimer's, dementia, spoiled kids. 60 months is what I really like to plan for. We have 60 months that's not in the stock market. 60 months that is bulletproof. Nothing can take that away. Because then we can go 5 years without having to pull anything out in a devalued stock market. Right? Does that kind of make sense?
Yeah.
So that's a really big deal. So now it's like, oh man, I just retired in December of 2021. The stock market's way down, and I can do this for 5 years. Like let's keep it going, right? And I like to factor in real estate if they're going to hang on to it, right? Rent's $1,800, all expenses are $500. Let's factor in another $300 because the HVAC's a little spotty, whatever. So that would be considered safe to me, housing. But in 2008, housing wasn't safe. That was also on the chopping block, right? And same in 2020. Yeah, so survivability, never selling in a down market. Yeah. Isn't that pretty?
And that's just a one-time investment, over 100 left on again.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just happy you used it for a slide.
I'm 22, Thomasina. How dare you? I'm young and tech savvy. Yeah, I had a kid at 8. Yeah. I had a kid at 8. Yeah, that's how it happened. It happened. Start using moisturizer for these wrinkles. But look where we are now. That everyone, those 10 people have lost more money, even if 40 million fell to 36 and a lot safer of a portfolio, that's way more money than they've ever made. 10 times as much that they just lost in a 16, 17 month period.
Because they listened and had a financial.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I'm just saying you have to have tough skin. But this looks a lot better now. We just haven't got to the end of January. And it would be the end of January if we were in February. But I mean, this one fund I know is up like 9% month to date, year to date, whatever you want to call it, which is kind of crazy. But yeah, I like to think that's not really fair because we haven't seen the recovery yet. So for a lot of people, it's going to hinder them and say, well, the stock market's not safe. And I'm like, but what about 08? But what about the dot-com bubble? What about all the other big dips that still ended in kind of a positive year? Like, this is business as usual. And when you have the tail end of something dropping almost 30% and your positive is still 13.31% average, like, I'll take it, right? It's not bad. Very misleading though. You can't.
Still more than 100,000, just your original investment.
A little bit, 2,700 times or something like that. Yeah. But that's very misleading. You being defensive with advisor selection, right? This is important. My average return is my average. I don't like talking about returns, but it's important to know something very important. You give me $100,000 and the first year I get you 100%, right? You have $200,000 now, right? And then from year 2 to 3, or no, the second year, is that year, whatever. Yeah. The second year I get you negative 50%. We agree. Your 200,000 is back to 100,000, right? And so you're going to come in all angry, up in arms. I'm going to say, well, look here, I got you a 25% average return. 100 negative 50 divided by 2, you have no gain, no loss, but you have a 25% average return. So I want to know what's the compounded average. And for this, I would just take a guess and say around 8.5%, 9%. So that's why when you're using a financial calculator, people say put 7 or put 8, and it makes sense. And the average return will be like, if this didn't come down, this was 16% average before this happened, right? Or 15.5, something like that. And that will be the case, but that's not the compounded average. That's not the real average, because down markets hurt you a lot more than good markets help you. There's 4 times more good years than there are bad, right? Every 10 years, 2 are bad, 8 are good. But if you're going to go down 20%, 100,000 to 80,000. If you're going to go up 20%, it's 80,000 to 96,000. So you got to go up 25 to break even, right? So it's just important to know my average return is X, run away, right? My fund managers are so smart, run away, right? None of that matters. All that matters is, like Thomasina said, consistency, just being super ordinary. And maybe one day you won't drive Japanese. Life goals. How can I bring more relevance? Can I talk about like tax efficiency? Remember I just said like assume all of that is Roth for that 1.7 million spending 15 a month. So you can do it like this, and the big cost is going to be capital gains tax. You already have $2 million, so you can get diversity in individual securities. You don't have to pay along the way, but you are going to have to pay at some point. And if you can afford to pay in the mutual fund world, if you can afford to pay with cash every year, then you'll pay the same in total tax, whether you pay at the end or whether you pay along the way, right? Real estate, you don't get a deduction, you depreciate, which is wonderful. So for me, like real estate, like multifamily investing is where we go when everything's there, and the whole team of accountants can only get income down to, a couple million. And they're still getting crushed with taxes, right? Like, let's get some stuff in there. We can depreciate, right? But you buy it, there's no tax break, you sell it, and you got to pay a capital gains tax, which is the same as this. Oh, fun fact. For a lot of people in that game, I sold all of their money around October, where I kind of was feeling it's the lowest. They took the biggest loss, and I bought it in like 6 minutes later. And so here's what we did was, it's called tax loss harvesting. When you owe the IRS money, you got to pay, right? Quickly, right? And you love those letters. They're cute sometimes. Now I start fires with them. I used to not enjoy my weekend, but they'll get it. You owe, you got to pay. But when you lose money, when you have a capital loss on the books, you can carry that. It's called an unlimited carry forward. So you can carry that for as far along as you want. So I have a lot of people from when they had, older, had money in 08, 09, and they kept that capital loss. And like I had someone who sold 23 units in Richmond, and it was like 2.2 million of capital gains, but he had like 1.1 million of capital loss. he's still paying 150,000 in taxes sometime soon, I think, even, but it's less painful, right? So that's like one little advantage of having it liquid is you can, if you're in multifamily investing, right? So Roth IRA, someone tell me how it works. Everyone knows Roth IRA, right? I'm not being facetious, like someone else talk. Let me breathe for a sec. What's the advantage of a Roth IRA? Why is it everywhere? Why does your dad tell you to do it? What, what's going on?
Isn't there, so there's two different types of IRAs. There's the ones that's pre-tax and then there's one that you already paid your tax on. So I believe Roth IRA is the one that you already paid tax on, so you're not having to pay taxes again. But aren't you limited like yearly on how much, isn't it like 5,000 or 6,000? That's the maximum that you can invest in it, and then you can't actually touch it without hitting a penalty until a certain age where you can start pulling out of it. But then you have to pull out within a certain window before you start getting hit with penalties again. That's all I know.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, you nailed it. There's a lot of nuance, right? Because if you're 1099, well, if you're 1099 and you have a good year, we can put 61,000 into a traditional tax deductible solo 401k plan or 61,000 in a Roth 401k plan. What time is it? Am I good, Thomasina?
You've got till 12:30 and then I take her at 12:30. I just got somebody I have to meet out here.
Okay, cool. All right, I'll say bye to you later. Yeah, cool. So forget about all the rules and technicalities and whether you're 1099 or W-2 and all that stuff, right? Roth traditional, you're right. IRA 6,500 this year. I mean, I started in 11 or 10 or I don't even know. It was 5,000, and then the year after it was 5,500 forever, and then it's been 6,000 for the last 4 years, and now it's 6,500. No different than a 401k. It was 18 flat when I started, and then 18.5, 19.5, 25, and now it's 22.5, right? The difference is, when are you gonna eat your cake in a way? So if you can afford to pay taxes, which gets easier and easier as we get older and have more money, right? Then a Roth makes a world of sense. So you go to work and earn 9,000 and bring home 6,000, invest it, and you get no tax deduction. But then when you get to retirement, everything that comes out is tax-free. Traditional, you do get a deduction, you do write it off, right? Not a credit, just you made 6,500 less dollars, but then you do need to pay tax in retirement. Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Let me give you a card.
Oh, sure.
I'll just give you one and then put the rest
I'm
there.
actually wondering.
Yeah, sorry, I'm really bad. Honestly, it's gonna kill me. Yeah, no, you're good.
Thank you.
May I have a-
There's my PowerPoint. Yeah. All right, so it's not that you can avoid paying taxes like in totality, but if I can catch you at, 21-year-old E5 in the Navy, and we can start putting away 6,000 a year into a Roth, because you said no to the Challenger in the wedding ring or the Tacoma, whatever they buy. Work with a lot of military, but I'm allowed to say that. So if we can do that, then it's yeah. It's not that there's gonna be like this tax-free retirement, but if you have a lot of your money where you don't have to worry about taxation, then you don't really have to think about what if rates go up, right? Which is everyone's concern as we start to age, is what if they do go up, right? Because if they go up 9% for you in your situation, then that's 9% less money you can spend if you're doing the math right, right? It kind of makes sense. So I'm a big fan of the Roth, but for some people, they got to deduct, right? And they got to buy a truck every 2 years, and it just depends on the situation.
So I have a question when it comes to setting up your retirement plan, you having like an umbrella for your income. Would that, is that what I would be asking you?
Yeah.
How do you create an umbrella for your, but basically a shelter for your money?
What do you mean umbrella? Like what if what if like bad stuff happens?
What if bad stuff happens, and how can you liquidate it and not pay so much in taxes? So would a Roth be serving that purpose, or what about an IRA?
A Roth IRA would, in a way, because the money you put in, there's no employer, it's not an employer plan, and there's no deduction. So the money you put in, you can take out whenever you want before 59 and a half. The interest, federal, state, FICA, Medicare, 10% penalty. So leave the interest alone. But if you max it out and you put in 33 grand in the next 5 years, and there's something on the market you want to buy, you can take that out. But you won't be able to put it back in. You'll be able to put in 6,500 or whatever that limit is in 5 years, if that makes sense. So Roth in a way, but not really. But there are a lot of vehicles out there where you can get the tax efficiency and have the liquidity. And really, that's all insurance related. And it all stems from a tax code that the left and the right both love because they're all rich and it's the only shelter they have. So you can cram a lot of money into.
So it's kind of like one-time use. Like you can put all your money in there, store it there, but when you take it out, you have to put it back little by little. Is that right now?
Not with life insurance. Well, that's another function. I didn't
Well,
want
someone
to.
that's $6,500.
Yes.
Raw.
Yes.
So that's how you put money in there and then let it, accrue, get interest and all that other stuff.
But if a duplex is for sale and you need 33 grand to get that 20%, then yeah, you can take it out.
But when you put it back in there, it would have a $6,500 cap.
Yep.
a year.
Yep. So what you would do then is use that as part of your collateral. If you get up to like 140,000, you can take a securities backed loan, which is like a home equity line of credit. It's kind of how I buy stuff. I'm sorry. If you have things, you can get 98% of safe stuff that can't go, like bonds, and 70% of stock market stuff. And a bank will give you a loan using that as collateral to avoid the fact that you don't want to go backward 33,000 on your retirement because that's 33 million less that you'll have when you die at 92 or whatever. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff out there. That's what I like to do. And that's why I work with a lot of realtors, agents, construction folks, people that own car lots and stuff. Because how can we not get crushed in taxes, but still be liquid and still be able to buy things before 59 and a half? Right? Like my dad just turned 59 and a half, professor. And I was like, great, cancel the Corvette order. Let's get a real car. Right? Because you're 200 million times richer now because you can touch your money. Right? I never tell him happy birthday, but on his half birthday this year, I definitely did. Because he's rich now, right? Like all that money that you can't touch, you can touch now, right? I said professor because, max out your 401k, do what you're supposed to do, be good, be disciplined, and now it's a lot of money, right? Not like that, but
so it'll be good to set up a Roth versus an IRA right now.
it depends if you can afford to pay a tax. It depends what you're making. If you make over 153,000, you can't get a tax deduction on the traditional. Technically, you can't do a Roth, but there's a backdoor option that the Obama administration set in place, and no one really wants to get rid of it, even though they try. They put it in things like Build Back Better that we know aren't going to make it through, right? Oh, we want to get rid of it, right? If that kind of makes sense. If you make too much money, you're not allowed to do a Roth or get a deduction on a traditional, is what I'm trying to tell you. So it's super situational. Like, call me if you want me to be. Yeah, right. It's delicate. What's in savings? What's in savings? What's the debt? What's the interest rate on the debt? Oh, you're active duty. Oh, you're 100% VA. So your interest rate 6%. Leave the credit card. Let's keep chipping away. Like, there's just so many moving pieces. But for people in the multifamily investing, real estate, or just kind of the business owner game, I like liquidity. And they get to a certain point where hiring another person or whatever isn't really going to increase returns that much. Then I like liquidity, and then getting the business revenue to where it should be. And then after that, like, yeah, you're going to retire at 60 and die at 94. So do the Roth too, because you need a lot of money to be able to have a solvent retirement, which is like really the greatest gift you can give kids, right? Is not mooching off of them.
And I have to head out soon.
Yeah.
But I had a question about the permanent life insurance.
Mhm.
So what are some of the benefits to having that how can we use it while we're alive? The death benefits or whatever the permanent life benefits give you.
Well, it's part of like when I said like that's why I buy stuff, like that's kind of the same thing as that's what I'm a big fan of. So it works just like a Roth. Walks, talks, quacks like a Roth. Put money in, no tax break. Some parameters there are tax breaks, like bank-owned life insurance, complicated, boring stuff. But you put the money in, and it earns interest with no tax, and you take the money out, it's tax-free. And you don't have to wait till 59 and a half. And you can do an individual loan against your own equity in the policy, like I just described. But like once you get to a certain point, it makes sense to just be like, here you go, banker, here's all my stuff. What's the most I can get? And just have that line of credit ready, if that makes sense.
Qualify for those like health wise.
Sometimes, yeah. I just got one for my daughter, so and it's like slowly building, but they have fees. So we pay the fees, and then just we put money in there and that like the savings that gets interest, like you said.
Mhm.
So we can borrow on the amount that we have in there.
Mhm.
But it'd be best to just show them that we have access to it, so that way they can just leverage. Right?
Yeah.
Versus like.
Yeah, but that policy, you get when your kid's 35, there's going to be, depending on if you're putting $50 or $100 or whatever, there's going to be a substantial amount of money in there.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
like right now, it's just not at the point where we can take loans from, but
Mhm.
it's just. So we just have to wait, basically.
It's a 5-year space, really a 10-year space, but not for a kid's policy. For a kid's policy, don't take loans from it. That's just a wedding present. If the person that they're marrying is,
I buy them a house with it.
it won't be that kind of money
Oh.
unless you're putting in $800 a month from the day your kid was 15 days old, right? Like it's not.
Not doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will pitch it as like, if you put this money into a life insurance policy, you'll retire, the kids will go to college, you'll buy them a house, you'll buy your mama a house. No, it's just like one other tool, but it's a very efficient tool. I just described all the upsides. Works like a Roth, walks, talks, quacks, tax efficient. But you got to pay for the cost of insurance. You're going to die with it in force, guaranteed, right? And out of 1,000 25-year-old females, one of them's going to die within the first 3 years, right? And so there's a cost of insurance. That's the catch. Roth IRA, you can't touch the interest until, traditional, 401ks and stuff, nothing until 59 and a half. So everything has an upside and a downside. Where are you trying to be? What are the expenses? What are the goals? And then you do the best you can with what you have. Then if your advisor is really good, you can be like, hey, work harder, or hey, let me help you negotiate that, you want that pay. You do, I agree, you do. You're running that whole department and, you don't even need those other people. And here's how you negotiate and, stuff like that. But if you get the raise, I get half of it. The other half, you can go get the car, right? So that's kind of the relationship. Yeah.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Anything else, guys, or are you exhausted yet? I know I'm exhausting. My wife tells me every day.
I have a financial advisor. Looking for heaven. It's just nice to know that it's like, okay, cool, how do you get paid, and how does all of this work, because I've started one of these, but I want to start more accounts, and it's like, well, what's that for the negatives, and as a 1099, I'm steadily growing every year. It's like, I need someone to tell me, hey, do this instead because you just doubled your income from last year or whatever the case may be. So
Yeah. Congrats on that.
thank you.
Yeah. Solicitation, hard pitch, elevator pitch. I'm kidding. I won't do that. It's you got to give an advisor 5 years to see what they're worth, right? It's yeah. How you want me to tell you how we make money? Because like you might know, I'll tell you. Value proposition first. Value proposition is the average client advisor relationship, the average person with the average advisor in the United States, with enough data points to be like confirmed here, tens of thousands. Their average return over a 30-year period is 3% per year higher than do-it-yourselfers. And there are do-it-yourselfers who can do it themselves. And I'm not going to shame anyone who can, but I didn't have the courage to buy a $7,000 hot tub 2 years ago. And my advisor told me to buy $7,000. Does that kind of make sense? Like I can't, emotions are very fickle, right? 87% of that return, that alpha return above expected is behavioral counseling. Behavioral investment counseling. No, don't do that. I was on my knees in my first meeting today. You've come so far. You do not need to upgrade the house yet. You do not need to start your rental, but your pockets are not deep enough yet, right? So that's kind of stuff we sell exactly the same as the stuff you can buy. Like there's literally no difference, no matter what company you go to, who you go to, but who's going to get you to put in the most, who's going to get you to not be scared when it goes down, who's going to prevent you from taking the bait, right? The greed in 2020 and 2021 and just keep doing the same thing. Cost on average is like 1% per year of the total assets that you have in fees. So if we can get you an alpha of 3%, net 1%, that's 2% higher per year. If this is 15%, I said that earlier, it would be like $10 million more dollars, right? So yeah, that's how we make money. But that's how we also have to continually earn the relationship, which to me is fun. But for a lot of people, like nobody can not care. Like in my line of work, nobody can not care and not enjoy like that, like the relationship part and scam you for more than like 5 years. Like nobody has more energy than that. Like it's impossible. So that's the good news. The other thing is I wouldn't work with anyone who's been doing this less than 10 years. Like they just don't know. I know less than I've ever known. I realize how little I know. Every day that goes by, I'm like, wow, I know even less than I thought I do. Right. And I have 45-year-old colleagues who are, they're flying private in the cars and the homes, but they're good people managing billions of dollars. And they're like, yeah, it's crazy how dumb I am. And I'm like, it's a never ending, right? And it's not the investment managing, but it's understanding how to work with people and how to like understand their not problems, like good problems, right?
Yeah. So one thing I've always heard is like you're supposed to pay yourself before you do anything else. You get a check, you pay yourself. So it was my understanding that that meant like investing. So let's say we get a commission before we like put money away from them or anything along those lines. We should consider investing part of that first. Is that correct?
Heck yeah. I mean, well, don't join Wesley Snipes in prison. Pay your taxes. Shakira, don't join Shakira in prison. Yeah, sorry, what?
Like when we're doing like the tax deferred accounts or whatever, obviously we would invest in those and then pay taxes afterwards. Isn't that how it works?
Yeah, one of the first things I like to do is make sure there's liquidity, like an emergency fund. And I'm not talking about in the bank. My dad is a Middle Eastern immigrant professor dad who thinks I'm just pathetic because I don't have all this money in the bank, right? But it's all in my brokerage, right? So I would rather earn.
It's accessible, it's just not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, at least he's got it in the bank versus Mather's money, because there's still a lot of generations that are Mather's money. So.
Yep. And a lot of people you guys sell homes to and stuff, right? You go to construction business or whatever, like why would you pay tax on it, right? How much in your safe? What's your address again? Right. Yes, because of what you see there. Yeah, for sure. But in moderation and what's possible and what is the emergency fund. What I'm saying is like, yeah, that is like, I would rather skip a mortgage than skip that bill any month of the year, whatever.
Okay.
Because of how valuable a $3,000 contribution is now at 34 than it would be if we start investing $100 a month and I'm 25 and you're 30 and that's all we do. It's 65. When each of us are 65, I'm gonna have twice as much to do because I started 5 years early. Like that's the impact. Right? Look, every 5 years it doubles, right?
Yeah.
So.
But the issue that I seem to keep running into is not realizing where I can actually save money. Like I wasn't raised financially savvy, so like
Almost nobody was.
I'm really trying to, and I've gotten a lot better. Don't get me wrong. Like I came leaps and bounds. Like I actually pay my bills on time. It's amazing. But at the same time, like
light and free.
Yeah. But I'm not. I told myself I was doing research into index funds. I was looking into Vanguard and stuff like that. And I was like, all right, well, I'm just going to start to open up an index fund with them. You have to have at least $3,000, right? So I was like, I'm just going to start putting a little bit in there at a time until it hits 3,000 so I can actually invest it.
It's still sitting in the money market, which is spitting out at 4% right now. So it's not the worst thing. It's better than the bank, yeah.
I guess because I'm not prioritizing paying myself first and then investing that money is where like it doesn't make sense to me, because my mental is like, no, you need to take that money and you need to take care of these things first. And I guess that's where you have to kind of relearn those things, retrain your brain.
Can make you feel better.
I hope so.
I'm coming in with humility. This is nothing to do with me or anyone. My organization, Northwestern Mutual, the average advisor, their revenue, income, whatever, is 3.5 times more than any advisor in the marketplace. Wonderful, because we do insurance and investments at a high level, and we do the real planning and whatever the reasons are. 97% of advisors, of all 6,400 of us, produce right up to what we need to pay our expenses. Nothing more, nothing less, right? So we're all proponents of what's called forced savings.
Yeah.
So with you, what I would do is look at it, look at everything and be like, cool, okay, as long as you're good with 400 a month and bullshit,
You can, cause this stop the recording.
miscellaneous,
We're.
miscellaneous.
Out of it anyway,
Yeah.
so, and I'm notorious for cussing, so you're.
The people that have the worst mouth.
This has been so hard for me. I feel like I like to answer. I've never gone this long without. Yeah. Well, my 14-year-old curses, not what mom's doing. So, yeah, it's, try to do it right. There's some cat movie in between.
Yes.